Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and welcome back to everyone who is already a subscriber to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now, not even a week removed from making his amateur MMA debut at Brawl in the Burgh, 24 for 247 Fighting Championships last weekend on October 26th, is Kyle Geissinger. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Luke. How's it going?
Going great, brother. If you want people to see you flex like you just did, you're going to have to say something as you flex. It only records those who's speaking. So I was the only one that got to see you flex. But it is great. You're coming in off your big debut win. I'm going to ask you to walk us through it a little bit at a time. It went to a decision. Got a lot to talk about. First, talk about warm-up, being in the corner, backstage. It was a very unique setup. The corners were separated, which was kind of cool and at different levels because the venue used to be a trampoline park. So I thought it was a very unique experience. But what was the walkout like? What was the warm-up like? Everything before the fight started. Talk about that.
Great. Everything went great. Warm up went good. The grappling matches, I'd say, didn't go as long as I expected them to. So we kind of got a little rushed out there, but we pivoted good and we got to it. And I felt great walking out. I got a good sweat going so I could get that initial burnout. And I felt great coming out.
Well, that's good. That's not only physical, but that's also like a mental test as far as you've never been. I mean, you've done plenty of sparring, but never been in the cage before. So break down the first round. What were your thoughts on it during it? Were you in a flow state or were you kind of thinking your way through it? Given the fact that it was your first fight, how was the adrenaline dump? Talk about the first round.
Oh, man. I ain't gonna lie, Luke. I'm kind of embarrassed with my performance, but I was ready to rip someone's head off. I kind of just came out there. I was just ready to go, ready to kind of come out there from a small town and prove myself a little bit. And yeah, the game plan kind of was to go out there, get started with my jab, get popping with my jab, and kind of get him to lift his hands up, get him respecting that jab. And then as soon as he starts lifting them hands up, throw that teep. And as you've seen, I kind of went right out there and just stabbed that teep right off the rip there, game plan out the window. So I was wanting to set up that teep, wanting to set up that Superman punch, but you get in there, them nerves, man. Game plan can go out the window real quick. But
so what was it like? Of course, that makes sense. Rounds are only 2 minutes long, so it goes very, very quickly. Every 30 seconds of the round is a quarter of the round. That's how I kind of think about it as a coach and a trainer, and also sitting cage side. Now, it doesn't mean you have to win every 30 seconds, but basically out of the 4 30-second quarters, you need to be able to win at least 3 of them in order, decisively. So it can be very tricky fighting at the novice rule sets. You have 2 more fights to go at the novice rule set before you can fight advanced amateur. But talk about the corner. You're sitting on the stool between round 1 and 2. What was it like? I know this is a weird question, but could you hear your coaches in between rounds? Sometimes, the amp and the adrenaline gets going. It's hard. So how are you doing breathing and regulating? And what was it like getting advice coming back out into the second round?
yeah, I remember Coach Matt telling me after the first round, he's like, "Stop, no more teeps, no more throwing any teeps." And my other quarterman, Josh, the only thing I remember him telling me, just trying to get my breath dialed in, breathing in the nose, getting me nasal breathing again. But I don't remember much of what happened in the corner, honestly. But I guess that's to be expected with nerves too.
That's to be expected. The fact that you remember anything is good enough. So how was the second round for you?
Oh man, about half and half. I think I came out strong the first 30 seconds and not the best looking punches. I heard Ethan, straighten them punches up and I'd have had a lot more success. And I definitely agree with him. I don't know where that even came from out there, just winging hooks back and forth, I guess, in the moment. Thought I had him hurt up on the cage and I just kind of started winging, hoping to get the finish and kind of gassed myself there. And he kind of took control after that moment up against the cage there. And so I don't know if you give that to him for ground control, pressing up on the cage, or if you give it to me for the damage. Personally, take damage over that ground control. Didn't really do much with it. So
Well, it's great. It's a learning process. You've obviously rewatched the commentary of Ethan the Wolverine Goss, the only two division pro champion ever for 247, an absolute legend and a future 247 Fighting Championship Hall of Famer. So pretty great stuff there. And obviously, uh, I always say if if you know, let's say 100% of what you know coming into a fight, if you can even use 40 to 50% of it in your first fight and you kind of develop as you go. I feel like as people get up through the amateurs and get into pro, they start to use more and more of the skills that they have because, like you said, your hooks were fine, but you probably should have mixed in some more of the straight punches. So talk about your mindset coming out to the third round. What were your corners telling you, which I think most corners probably do when it's looking like it could go to a decision, where they telling you, hey, you got to win this round. What was the mindset coming into round three?
press the pace, just try and put pressure on, stick the jab. Not He kept letting me know, don't use the teep. Teep's out the window. We're done. Every time I threw that teep, they grab it and it kind of pulled us right into a clinching exchange. I was trying to kind of stay on the outside and get my jab going and, set up, walk him into a big punch. And, every time I threw that teep, it closed the distance. So, they just wanted me to push the pressure. Came out the third round, opened up with a Superman punch. Didn't set it up. I practiced setting them punches up. So, I didn't set it up. I just kind of came out, winged it out, and yeah, missed from there. He got a hold of me, put me up on the wall, and I kind of tried stepping over top of him to get to his back. And he just kind of skyrocketed me and slammed me right on my head. And yeah, I kind of looked under my head, or under between my legs, and seen his head. And I just kind of shifted my hips, scooped that head with my legs, got the arm in there, and locked the triangle choke.
Yeah, and that for people that don't know, and I guess if they're watching this, they probably do know. That's really good opportunistic jujitsu. That's what jujitsu's for, right? In bad situations, or at least not ideal situations, being on your back. That's why so many jujitsu practitioners love being on their back and fighting off their back. It's a great complementary style for MMA, obviously. Um, talk us through a little bit, as far as a lot of times a leg triangle could also be converted into an arm bar if you step over, if you bring your knee, the if you bring your knee over the head with the one that's cinched in. So how did that triangle feel, and kind of how did you know that was going to go? Like walk us through that.
Yeah, as soon as I locked, so at first, if you notice, his head was on the outside of my leg, so I kind of had to get my hips shifted and kind of manipulate his head in between my legs there. But as soon as I got his head in and his arm and locked it, I kind of just was like, all right, get your breath here, think about what you're going to do next. And I kind of just got out from under him there, kind of shucked him to the side to sit up to get more pressure on that triangle. And I just kept hearing everyone tell me to grab the arm, grab the arm, grab the arm. And I'm thinking in my head, do I want to go underneath them and grab that arm and try and finish this choke, or do I just want to use this to get top position? And I think the choice I made, trying to get top position and using it to kind of roll them over, just kind of end on top with them ground strikes, kind of made a difference. But I also kind of kicked myself, like maybe I should have risked it and went underneath, grabbed that arm, and really sunk it in the whole way.
Well, I think it really doesn't matter. Your decision worked because you won the fight. And frankly, turning the triangle over, I think I think that's always a good idea. Yes, finishing the triangle, great. Obviously, if you can do that, finish it. There's a lot of ways to finish it. I kind of like the cut like a 45 degree by putting an arm in underneath their leg and kind of like cutting towards your knee side to really kind of get off on that angle. There's so many different ways. You can finish a leg triangle straight up, squared up, but it's a lot easier for them to defend. So sometimes a hard angle. I personally, and this is going back, some people, this is what, 10 years, probably maybe more, maybe 15 in the UFC. The Diaz brothers, they had a tendency to throw up leg triangles. Sometimes, one of the Diaz's is famous for throwing up a leg triangle and doing a double bird to the crowd as he had it, but they would also use it to roll up. You can actually finish a leg triangle choke from top mount. So I personally think kind of the position over submission attempt process that you did, I actually really like. Of course, if you had stayed under and gotten the finish, that would have been great too. So really putting yourself in a good position really makes the big difference, particularly off a big slam. Not only can the big slam take the wind out of you physically, but mentally a lot of times, and an encouragement to everybody, it is understandable to get frustrated when a good wrestler grabs you and slams you or whatever happens, and grappling can be very mentally. But a lot of times you'll see bottom fighters, they get, they get slammed, they get taken down, and they kind of like look frustrated and relax and sort of, like it's almost like kind of, acquiescing to the position. And you obviously didn't do that. You got really good with your legs. Once you rolled them over and you got into that good mount position, you did. Body strikes, obviously, novice amateur can't strike to the head. That position becomes much more dominant in advanced amateur. But going into the decision, once the fight was over, and that was quite a bit in that round because of him picking you up, slamming you, you getting the triangle in, rolling him over, getting the mount and punching to the below the clavicle, as you knew, is legal. A lot of times rules matter. A lot of times people say, oh, novice amateur, you can't strike to your opponent when you're on the ground. That's not true. Clavicle, or what typically called the collarbone and down, is completely legal. We've even seen a couple novice amateur fights get ended to knees to the side and some other things like crossbody, knees to the side and other things. It's a little bit trickier, but people can get it done. How confident were you going in that in-between time? Your coaches are talking to you. You really, for people that don't know, the fighters, me, anybody that's not the judges or the announcer has no idea legally or technically who won. So we have an idea that you won. But how confident were you going into that with that gap in between what were your coaches telling you about the win? And were you confident that you were going to get the win when you walked up there to get your hand raised?
Yeah, absolutely. I was pretty sure I had the win in the book with the the takedown in the first, rear naked choke attempt, switched off into a guillotine there. Second round, damage on the strikes. Yeah, he had to take down, but I gave myself all 3 rounds there. So yeah, I was pretty confident, but man, I was a little upset with myself that I didn't get to finish, but I was grateful for the win for sure.
Absolutely. And the fact that you did all of that with 6 minutes, for people that don't know, the longer the round is, yes, it's harder because you have to have more cardio conditioning, but it also in some ways allows more fight to develop. So you got a lot done in 6 minutes. A unanimous decision, of course, made sense. It really wasn't, it really wasn't that close. You did a great job. Obviously, hats off to your opponent for making you respect the wrestling side of things and
Yeah, absolutely.
blaming you, and you get that figured out. I'm sure at some point the teep will become a beautiful weapon for you. It's just a matter of, for people that don't know, in the corner, part of the corner's job, I would say the main part of the corner's job, is to change on the fly to what's happening in the fight. Obviously, you did that as well. So you could have practiced something that they decide, hey, no longer try that, go someplace else. Sometimes a person goes in there with a game plan to strike and then realizes it's time to go to the ground or whatever. So corners are really trying to be opportunistic. Obviously, you've got great corners. They walked you right through it. You did a good job of performing with what they said. So, and a lot of times that's what that conversation in the corner is about, is trying to develop a bit of a better strategy as the fight develops. Really spectacular to see you get the win. 247 Fighting Championship has announced that their next brawl in the Burgh will be December 21st, which for those that can count, 4 days before Christmas, or as I like to call it, Christmas, honoring Jesus Christ's birth and why he came to the earth. But what are your thoughts about potentially, obviously, matchmaking some things, but what are your thoughts about fighting 4 days before Christmas? Would you like to get back on the next 247 card December 21st?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to stay active as possible. Right now, I'm dealing with a little bit of hand swelling, so I got it compressed and been icing it, and it's been feeling better. I still got full mobility in my fingers and my wrists, so that's a positive there. So I'm gonna give it about a week here, let it heal up, and see how it feels. And yeah, I'm definitely interested for December card.
Well, obviously, your health comes first. You got to wait to see how you heal up. They originally were thinking about a November card, which would have been a very quick turnaround, under a month turnaround. I personally like the slightly longer. Quick turnarounds are great for me. I love 247. I love getting in there to do the interviews and all that. But I think for the fighters, about a 2 month turnaround, just a little under. You fought on the 26th of October. This one's going to be the 21st of December, but it certainly allows what we hope is a minor injury for you to heal up, and for you to continue to train. Even if you can't fight December 21st, what a way to get your amateur debut. I remember when you said in the pre-fight interview that you wanted to do your debut a while ago. You were listening to your coaches, really developing a game plan. So end us on the feeling of what it's like for you to actually have made it all the way to an amateur MMA fight. People don't know that that's a lot, not only in training, but also of stress and things coming together. So what was it like getting your first fight out of the way and having the feeling that you have now?
Oh, it's a fresh breath, man. I feel it feels great, and everyone always has it, am I here? Am I meant for this? And I definitely felt like I was. I went in there with the attitude that I was, and I felt like I proved to myself that I was. So, it was great. And I took the boy trick or treating today. Half the town, they were all wishing me congratulations. Everyone was all excited for me. So blessed.
Well, I think that's what's really special. You fight out of total martial training center. You mentioned earlier that you really want to show up and show off for a small town. And I think, big towns are great too, but I think small towns, particularly for fighters, tend to be really special because you get that support, you get the people behind you, even something simple like trick or treating. So very cool stuff. Glad you're recovering. Glad you can make time out of your time to come on the show. Thanks so much for coming on. You've been listening to Luke Basin from MMA Fancast with the now victorious and undefeated amateur MMA fighter, Kyle Geissinger.
Let's go. Thank you, Luke. Take care, brother.
Thank you very much for coming on. Have a good one.